Friday. How are you doing? I hope you're doing fantastic. I wanted to make this video. I'm pretty tired, so I want to make this a little bit shorter. So I hope you can engage with our Friday Night Live. And I always love your interactions and your comments. Very, very high quality. I really love that. I really appreciate that. Of course, if you're new here, hi, my name is Dr. Ayguen Sahin. Welcome to my channel. Join our Friday Night Lives. We are discussing many topics that is affecting humanity in a socio-psychological and socio-political way. And I do the analysis and connecting the dots as a scientist. So today I want to talk about the key of speaking with MAGA people. And I also have received comments on that stating that I just don't know how to talk with them. I just don't know how to interact with them. It doesn't make any sense. Or I have family members who are MAGA and I just cannot connect. So I recently had an interaction. I found it very, very insightful, very, very interesting. So I wanted to share that with you. But before I do, of course, like this video and support our channel and become a member. And we are here, the strategic thinkers, the independent thinkers, and we are not either side of the aisle. We are actually independent critical thinkers. So join our community, awesome community, high quality community here. But also want to make an announcement. I created my brand new channel, the neurohypersensitivity channel, as a person with neurohypersensitivity. And I started to move my weekly master classes, practical neuroscience master classes, into my new channel. So I'm thinking that I would like to keep this main channel, as people love me to do, to be the analysis and connecting the dots and socio-psychological and socio-political analysis, connecting the dots, critical thinking, and analyzing the world's events. So I think I maybe would like to just keep my channel maybe weekly and in general, because I have so many topics I need to talk about and I just don't want to mix all of them together. So most likely all of the neuroscience goes into, because they're all NHS basically, neurohypersensitivity, will go into my neurohypersensitivity channel. Yes, down here you can click and please subscribe there. If you believe that your nervous system is sensitive, you are sensitively reacting to the environments, there are nuances for that. So please go to my channel and check and take the 5-question quiz to see if you're actually a neurohypersensitive person. So do that, and then on this channel I most likely will do the analysis, okay, and discussions and all that. So if you're excited, yay, hit the like button and subscribe, and let's keep going. So we had, I think was last week, a construction. Well, they were just paving the streets in a large parking lot of a mall, and I was disturbed by it one night because it came literally out of nowhere. And then the next day, towards the 5-6ish p.m., I walked there into the parking lot and said, I was just seeing that they started to accumulate and they started to come in, the workers. And then I was like, okay, let me ask them. I usually do that. I usually go up there and talk with the construction managers or the construction people or anybody if I don't know what this construction is all about or what they're doing or how long it will take, etc. So I literally was just walking in and I saw this nice gentleman, clearly a worker, and he was, I would say, maybe 60-ish years old, gray hair, not that old, I would say max 60 years old. And I asked him, what this is about, how long will that take, what, etc. And so then he, obviously, we always see this is what it is, right? It connects the community, right? Like, oh yeah, we want to do this and pave this area, but the city said this, and we know, right? Like what they don't want to give them money. I'm like, yeah, exactly, like crazy, and oh my god, and this street and that street, and they're doing this and that. So this is how you started the conversation, right? Just came naturally of a connected community getting pissed at the municipalities or the city, etc. This is how the conversation started. And then the conversation continued of what is this about and that about. So it was just generally curiosity and talking about the general, like how they're paving here. And then I mentioned yes, because it was so noisy, and I'm literally facing this parking lot, and I saw there was a cloud of dust. It's not a dust, like yeah, there is a dust there, and because we are doing these and that on the street. So then the conversation became so natural and so genuinely, like talking about a lot of things. And then we genuinely had a conversation about, I'm telling you, everything, okay? It literally turned into an hour conversation. And listen, I didn't even know that this person was a MAGA guy. How did I know? I will tell you towards later on in the conversation, like how I even got to understand that he was a MAGA guy. But in generally, we were just literally talking about here and there and everything, first starting with the general community situation. And when a community situation is there, this means like there's something get connected. And then after that, I will tell you the things that I remember, because there was just so many things, and we just literally talked about everything. And so also, so I don't even know how the conversation got into politics, but it always gets into politics, right? Because I guess also he moved the conversation into, this building, oh yeah, and the managers of that building, and then the city does this, and of course they don't take care of anything, and these and that. And so some points he mentioned was about, we talked specifically about RFK Jr., his healthcare, how he runs the HHS. I will tell you more about it. And then he mentioned something briefly about Muslims. Then he mentioned something about gay people. And then during these conversations, obviously, I clearly understood that he was a MAGA guy. But again, so let me explain now to you how I handled the conversation so that it kept on and on and on in a very high quality and in a very respectful, very nice and kind way. Even though sometimes he said things that I wasn't agreeing, but let me tell you how I handled it. And if you don't know or didn't know, I am shocking to myself, very interested. I have multiple records already how I could turn a very toxic, not toxic, but especially youth, especially these these crazy, aggressive, bullish type of youth, into calm, like a cucumber. I don't know how to calm, like a, I don't know, sheep, kind of, not a sheep in a bad way, but very calm and sweet young people, and in a group of people that we have a conversation with. How many of those I was able to turn around multiple times. I have this record that I am myself surprised about. So let me talk first about what he said about RFK Jr. So suddenly somehow the conversation got to RFK Jr. and he said something. Oh yeah, I like him. I was like, nah, no, listen, I'm a scientist. You know, I tell you exactly how I said it. No, listen, I'm a scientist, you know, and obviously I am absolutely not agreeing with how the COVID was handled. And it's just so absurd and insane on both sides. So I told already one of my subscribers, very, very loyal subscribers, going South Garage, High's going South Garage. I hope you will be catching up with this. Usually he joins the Friday Night Live and we have a great conversation. So I also gave him a suggestion that start first by saying like that if you are genuinely not agreeing with either side of the aisle, then state so. State so, but also, as I also mentioned, and this turns out to be literally identical to what suggestions and what my advice was to my subscriber, and I literally applied it again. Identical what I said. And start by also stating your qualifications and your experience. That changed the game. Because I said, yeah, but I'm a scientist, you know, because I'm a scientist and you know what they do with cancer patients. And, you know, I founded a cancer organization. And they're like, oh my God, yes. And I said, yeah, listen, you know, these and that situations, and we really cannot bring cancer patients into the healthcare system. It sucks so bad and they need help, and we try to do, and also, you know, the money is now gone and we don't even know how to get these, you know, the patients into the hospitals. So when you bring, and then he immediately is like, yeah, you know, because he knows it's the reality. Then you can turn that utopia of politics into real life. And because obviously they see it, they are going through it themselves. And of course he also said, and we'll tell you later, that this was a shocker to me, and I will get to that. So obviously he had also people dying from cancer, and he understood the situation. And then from there, from nonprofits, we moved to the topics of nonprofits and how nonprofits are being used for money laundering, for all sorts of, you know, the ultra billionaires using nonprofits to do all sorts of crazy stuff. So we both agreed on that, right? And then we both also agreed on that, yeah, right, the billionaires, they run the world. And I said, listen, this Trump, Obama, and that person, I mentioned multiple world leaders too. I'm not going to mention them right here, but, and those, they're just like puppets, right? They don't even run the world. The world is being run by these ultra billionaires, the oil companies, the pharma companies, and this is a known fact, right? And those are running the world, like the Rothschilds families, right? And these and that. So we know that, and now we know it even more. And it's now more public, more obvious. And now, as I said, like, you know, Obama, like, who's Obama? Like, Trump, who's Trump? Like, see, like, I sit in an equal manner, not like, oh, Trump, and like, oh, Obama. No, in a very equal way, like, Trump, like, who's Trump? Obama, who's Obama? Like, they're all puppets. And and then I mentioned other leaders, like they're all like puppets. They just don't even run the world. They are being run by this ultra, we are run, the world has been run, the humanity has been run by these ultra billionaires. And I mentioned Elon Musk and all the other ones like Facebook and all that. And so yeah, I mean, obviously he agreed with that. There was not even a point of like, what? No, Obama is horrible, but Trump is better. There was not even a point of that, because when you make it the point of what the facts are without taking any sides and stick by the sides and be very, not only, bringing your point across, but be normally talking, not aggressive, nothing, but it's just like stating the day-to-day life's facts. And that is the other point that, check. And then he said something like, from the nonprofits of the world's nonprofits, he said something like, yeah, you know what, but I'm disagreeing, what is this with the, I'm very disagreeing with the, the condoms, sending condoms over whatever country. And I'm like, yeah, but again, and I turned that around because I knew what direction that would go in. And then I turned this around and I brought it back into, the nonprofit's reality from my perspective, running a nonprofit. I said, listen, because of the nonprofits being used even overseas. Yes, I know for a fact that nonprofits in those vulnerable countries, third world countries, yes, heck yes, I know for a fact, because I'm running a global cancer organization. I have a team from all over the world. I not only that I know myself, but also I get the insights from my team members that actually what's going on. I mean, we already know for a decade. For a decade, but this is a known fact, right? A known truth, but it's being confirmed with my team members from all over the world. Like in these third world countries, the nonprofits are like not those what we think they are, right? What they do, not the things that we think they do. And those are reality stuff. I'm not talking about the actual, the condoms, etc. going there, but I'm talking about the nonprofits in those third world countries. And so then I pivoted to that conversation and said, listen, because of these being used nonprofits from all over the world in a different way, in a very corrupt way, that hurts organizations like us, who are indeed truly nonprofits and actually serve the humanity, actually serve the people, but we don't get the money. They have the money, they get the multi-million-dollar donations, but we don't. And that is what kills me, because I said I work 24/7 and turning into pretzels to save cancer patients' lives, but the money that we get is just like a joke, right? Like and also I said here, even in this city, where our organization is, the nonprofits, 50 years old nonprofits, 100 years old nonprofits, they get constantly, non-stop, all the donations, all the money, and we are 13 years in the city and it doesn't matter, because this system is so corrupt. The way the money is being distributed to nonprofits is so corrupt. It's just insanity. I will probably either write a book or do another video on that, just for it, because nobody mentions that. Nobody mentions that the corruption of the donations, meaning the funders funding, that how the funders fund nonprofits is just a joke. It's actually a joke, okay? So it's just literally like who you know. this cannot be, this is crazy. If you are in a job application and then you apply, obviously it everywhere is like that, right? Like especially in overseas, in some countries that there's corruption there of the positions. And the same applies when you are applying for funding. I'm not talking about research funding, I'm talking about nonprofit funding, programs funding, or in general nonprofit funding. It literally is a corrupt joke, because it's literally who you know. If you don't know the funder, if you don't have relationships, it's literally like they are telling you, have a good relationship with the funder. I'm sorry, like, how I'm supposed to, I mean, I need my, if you still don't understand what life-saving work I'm doing, then I don't need to have a relationship with you. Why would I need to have a relationship with you? You need to fund my work. And this is the same because I'm coming from academia. Like, you don't schmooze people based on your research, it's based on merit. And the same, I can't believe it's not applicable for nonprofits. It's literally like you schmooze and then you get the funding. So corrupt is the system. So I mentioned that, obviously then this conversation turned more deeper and more heartfelt, meaning that he understood my heart level, where my heart was, where my brain was, where my heart, where my soul was. And that, my friend, is the key. That is the key. Connect in the human level, and your heart and your soul and your mind all together. When that person understood where I'm truly coming from, where my heart was, where my soul was, where my level at humanity was, then everything changed. I mean, it was already from the beginning already super respectful and nice and kind, but when it turned into that, that is the point where you connect. That, my friend, is the key. And then he said something like about Muslims, and then he said, yeah, but I don't like when, what was that recently about, that they are, in New York City, that they prayed in front of, like, on the streets. Like, what is this? I don't like when they do that. And he was just really pissed about that. And then I just looked at him, and then I think he understood maybe that I could have been maybe in that religion. And he said, yeah, I mean, you might maybe in that religion, but I just don't like it that they do that, etc. And then he was very, very, like, clear on that he doesn't like it, the Muslims doing it, that radical Muslims, right? She was clear about that. The way I handled it was, obviously by now I was raised Muslim, and I don't believe in any religion, but my core, how I raised, was Muslim faith, Islamic faith, but also since childhood, I learned about Christianity, obviously, also, and I participated a lot in Christian events because I was born and grew up in Germany. And so also I learned in middle school a lot about these three religions, also Judaism, right? Judaism, as well as later on in end of high school, I learned a lot about Buddhism. So I know 4 religions extremely well. So very well, okay? I can do a lot of debate on everything because I connect all these religions together. So, and I said, the way I pivoted then that conversation, because he was very clear, straightforward for that he doesn't like that. And I said, in all the radicalism, I really don't like it. It doesn't matter if it's Muslim, of Christianity or other religions, like the extremism doesn't make any sense because it's not even in the religion, and they are misrepresenting the religion. So, and that conversation literally ended there. So again, when you connect from your heart, from your soul, and have your brain together mixed with combo with your real life experiences, that, my friend, if you have gently put this in a nice conversational package, that's literally key. Then the last thing, I think after that, he said what was the conversation? So we did nonprofits, and then the condoms, and then the Muslims, and then, oh yeah, the gay people, yeah. And then he said something about gay, but then he also then pivoted and said, I mean, everybody can do whatever they want, right? But then he said something about them, and I said, listen, and I mentioned to him my take on, and I can do another completely different video because I have a specific viewpoint observation on gay people and mental health, and also biology, and also genetics, obviously all my key elements, right, that I can talk about, and also from the perspective of my gay friends from different angles. And I explained to him, I'm not going to share this here, I will do a separate video on that, and I explained that to him about my experiences and my observations as a geneticist, as from the psychology and mental health perspective, from the healthcare perspective, and also from my best friends, my close friends who are gays and who are either male gay or women gay, but the completely different way of being gay. But then I said also the way what I don't like from the gays perspective, also from the gay side of how it's been presented and represented and been showed, etc. So that conversation also kind of was in a very normal, turned into a normal conversation, and that was it. Then after that, and I think I will end this after this here, is that at the very end, it's already been like 45 minutes in, we were talking about all of this combined. And at the very end, because he had an accent, okay, and he also said something like that he was from New York, from Brooklyn, New York. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. So then at the very end, he said that I somehow, we talked about New York, and then I said, oh, Rudy Giuliani is now is hospitalized because of the 9/11 illness. And then he said, I was there. And by the way, if I forgot to say, in the middle of the conversation somewhere, he said that he's a veteran. And then we always like, okay, when somebody says that I'm a veteran, like, I'm done. Like, I am like, oh my God, thank you for your service. I'm so, volunteer for veterans. And then we went on and on about veterans and how they are not treated well, and how the system is make them more terrible, and the illnesses they have, and how they are not being taken care of. We talked a lot about veterans, and that kind of like was like it then for me, from my side, I melted. Like I could have hugged this man. He was so sweet. He was very, very sweet, and a very smart man too. And at the very end, then he said, and talked about 9/11, and then he said, I was there. I watched it. It happened in front of my eyes. I was like, what? He said, yes, I saw the plane flying into the Twin Tower. I was like, what is happening? He said, I was working in the airport, in the JFK airport, and they were just doing something with a colleague there. And then they were discussing to finish that whatever work and to leave. And then he said that as I was looking straight, I literally saw the plane jamming into the Twin Tower. And then he said to his colleague, the plane just crashed into the Twin Tower. Then the colleague didn't believe him and said to him, nah, he probably just fly behind of it, or you probably didn't saw it wrong. He said, no, the plane flew into the tower. Because then he said, let's get out of here. He said, let's get out of here immediately. He's like, what? Come on, no, like, are you crazy? And he said to me, I knew that this tower will be crashing. So I tried to get out as soon as possible, and nobody believed me, because I knew that there was a plane going in, but no plane coming out. So it went into the tower. I knew that. That was coming in, no going out. That building will be, and he mentioned about how the buildings are being made, etc. So he said, I knew that the tower will come down. He said, let's get out of here immediately. That his colleague was kind of like, yeah, no. And then in that moment, the second plane they saw crashed into the second building. I mean, he saw all of it. And then he said that he was so sad to say that he lost multiple of his colleagues, firefighters, and also, I mean, I also asked him if anybody he knew that passed, and he said, yeah, like lots of my friends, like who were firefighters, responders, etc. So it was very, very heartfelt, like very deep for me at the moment, that the literally conversation ended into that, and I was like mind blown. Like I met somebody, because last year, for whatever heck reason, I kept watching the 9/11 videos, and it's just unreal, like what is happening, and all of the documentaries and all that and real life videos, and not just talking but actually on the ground, and how the stories, how people make it out. It's just surreal, like why and the guilt and etc. that comes with it, or the last phone calls. It's very, very heartbreaking. So, and then I was very already sensitive about that, and then the conversation ended with that, a person who literally saw the plane coming in. I was like, oh my God, I supposedly had to meet this person. And at the end, we just said, it was so nice to meet you. And I could have hugged this man, and I guess he could have hugged me, because we had such a nice bond, and very on the core, heart, soul, humanity level. I can actually cry right now. It was so deep and so lovely and so loving and caring for humanity. And then it's the politics is just politics. I keep saying that since when I was in Turkey, when I was in Germany. It is just a joke. Actually, it is the real life. Has nothing to do with politics ever. Actually, ever. Do you know why? Let me tell you this. In Turkey, when you at that time in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 80s, 70s, 80s, I wasn't in the 70s there, but in the 80s, from the 80s to 2000. So mid 80s to 2000, so I would say 16 years. And at that time in the 80s or so, there was like this politics about anti-Greek, right? Greek versus Turkey, Greek versus Turkey. It was always like this pushing the inflammation of constant push of the fire in between. But in real life, in reality, the Greeks and the Turks are like identical. I mean, what? Even the foods. Turkey, if you know baklava, Turkish people said baklava is ours. Greek people says no, it's ours. Börek is ours. No, they say this is ours. Like tzatziki is Turkish. No, it's Greek. So it's just the food is identical. And so there was always this fight, like whose food belongs to whom. And the culture, it's Mediterranean freaking, right? It's just Mediterranean. Like even with Italian, like the passion of Mediterraneans, it is the same in the Turks, it's the same in Spain, same in Italy, it's same in Greek, because it's Mediterranean, right? So you can't separate that. And my best, like closest friend in Germany, she was my neighbor and she was my closest friend. She was Greek, and we were like a immediate like magnet bond, because we were like the passion, the fire, the energy is identical. So that this Turk, no, it's the energy, is the passion, is the fire. And in here in the United States, my best friends circle were Italian. Like Italian, I had my best friends were Italian. And it's just the immediate bond I have with Italian people. I always say I consider myself half Italian. I mean, I visited so many places in Italy, and it's just, I love it. I mean, it's the food is identical. It's Mediterranean food. The energy, the passion, the fire is the same. So that's what I'm saying. And even with the MAGA and non-MAGA, it doesn't matter. When you are connected, then that's the key again, and I will finish after this, is the key is to connect from your heart, from your soul, from your experience, from community, and from your brain, from your knowledge, and bring that together in a very nice conversational way. And also, as I said, and from the very beginning, make it clear, like not just saying directly. And again, this is in the flow of conversation. And also, I kept saying what I believed in, but also I said, in a way, it was fluid, it was natural, rather than, by the way, I am not on this side and I am not on this side. You didn't even have to do it, because the way you converse and to explain already shows that you are not on either side, because you criticize either side or both sides, and you are mentioning what is actually your thoughts and views are based on also your experiences and also your maybe education or your real life things that you went through or your family went through or whatever experience you had, but you show that you can do independent and strategic analysis rather than showing that you are fixed on this talk. So the nice flow back and forth creates, and the connection from your heart, from your soul, from your brain really creates this nice environment where everyone's feeling heard and everyone connects on the soul level. So I really hope you learned something from this video. I hope this was insightful and educational, and you let me know your comments and your experiences, how you interact with opposite viewpoints, opposite belief systems, or anything that you feel like you need help with, let me know in the comments, and I look forward to comment and connect you there. And also, if you find this valuable, I encourage you and invite you to like this video and subscribe, and I will see you in the next analysis video. Take care. Bye bye.